Chinua Achebe was born in 1930 in Ajadi, in what was then the British colony of Nigeria. His father was a catechist for the Church Missionary Society. His first language was Igbo. His second language, from the age of 8, was English. He was the fifth of 6 children and the first in his family to go to university. He read Heart of Darkness as a student at University College Ibadan. He read it, at first, the way an African student was supposed to read it, as a masterpiece. As a great humane critique of European imperialism. Conrad, after all, was the writer who had put the words the horror, into the mouth of Mr. Kurtz. The writer who seemed to be exposing what Europe had done to the Congo. And then, at some point, Achebe stopped reading it that way. He noticed something. He noticed that the Africans in Heart of Darkness are not characters. They are scenery. They do not speak, except in grunts. They exist to reflect the moral condition of the white man moving through them. Kurtz's soul is the subject. The African forest, the African bodies, the African river, these are the mirror in which the European sees himself. Achebe would later say, "What makes Heart of Darkness offensive is not that it depicts Africa as a place of darkness. It is that it depicts Africa as a place with no human beings in it." He decided to write the book that put the human beings back. But here's what most readers miss about that decision. The Umuofia of Things Fall Apart is not a paradise. Achebe took great pains to make sure of that. This is not a novel about noble savages destroyed by wicked colonizers. This is a novel about a specific, complicated, structured human society, with laws, with a judicial system, with poetry, with philosophy, with cruelty, with contradictions. Twins in Umuofia are considered abominations. They are placed in earthenware pots and left to die in the evil forest. A man named Umuofia, given to Umuofia as a peace child from another village, lives with Okonkwo's family for 3 years, long enough for Okonkwo's son Noi to call him brother. When the oracle decrees that Umuofia must be killed, the wise elder Ogwefi Azuda warns Okonkwo not to be the one who does it. "The boy calls you father. Do not bear a hand in his death." Okonkwo goes anyway. And when the boy runs to him, wounded and calling him father, Okonkwo cuts him down with his machete, not because he must, but because he was afraid of being thought weak. This is Chapter 7. It is 140 pages before the first white missionary appears. The village that Achebe builds for us is a real village. It has a great deal that is admirable and a great deal that is horrifying. Any honest reader closes the first third of the book knowing that Umuofia's collapse cannot be entirely blamed on outsiders. And that's where the standard interpretation starts to collapse. Because Okonkwo, the man at the center of the novel, is not a figure of Igbo excellence. He is a figure of Igbo excess. Achebe gives us his motivation on page 1. Okonkwo's father, Anoka, was a musician, a man of depths. A man who preferred palm wine and flute playing to yam farming. A man the village considered a failure because he did not accumulate, did not fight, did not build. When he died, he was carried into the evil forest to rot because he had died of the swelling sickness and was not fit for burial. Okonkwo spends his entire life trying not to be his father. Everything he does, every wrestling match he wins, every war he fights in, every yam he grows, every wife he beats, every son he shouts at, every softness he suppresses, is calibrated against Anoka. Okonkwo is a man built entirely on the negation of his father. He has no self except the refusal to be the man who made him. And here's what that means for the book. Long before the missionaries arrive, Okonkwo is already breaking. He kills Umuofia and cannot eat for 2 days. He accidentally shoots the son of Ogwefi Azudu at the funeral and is exiled from Umuofia for 7 years. His own son, Noi, is drawn to the gentle strangeness of the new Christian religion, not because it is superior, but because it does not require him to be the man his father demands he be. Noi leaves Okonkwo before the empire arrives. The pattern of Okonkwo's life was not written by British colonial policy. It was written by the way Okonkwo constructed his own manhood. Colonialism is the historical shock he happens to face. But the argument the novel is making is that he would have broken against any shock large enough, because a self built on refusal cannot bend. This is why Achebe's title is what it is. Things Fall Apart comes from Yeats's poem, The Second Coming, written in 1919. The full line is, "Things fall apart, the center cannot hold." Yeats was writing about the collapse of European civilization after the First World War. The center that could not hold was the whole moral architecture of a continent. Achebe takes the line and points it at a village. And also at a man. And the trick of the novel is that it works for both. The center that cannot hold, in Things Fall Apart, is not primarily the Igbo world. The Igbo world is battered, but still real. Some of it survives, some of it transforms, some of it hides inside Christianity and waits for 150 years. Chinua Achebe himself, writing in Igbo and English, is proof that the center held enough. The center that cannot hold, in the strictest sense, is Okonkwo. His masculinity, his refusal of his father, his one available emotional register, controlled violence, cannot survive a world in which the old rules no longer apply. And that's why he hangs himself. Not because Umuofia is destroyed. Umuofia is not destroyed. It is changed. His son is a Christian. His people are negotiating with the district commissioner. The world is being remade around him, and he cannot participate in the remaking, because everything he is a refusal of his father, and the world of his father is going. Suicide in Umuofia is an abomination. His body cannot be buried by his kinsmen. He ends the novel the way his father did, carried out into the evil forest, unclean, unwelcome, a shame. The circle closes. Okonkwo has become an Oka. The book ends with one of the most quietly devastating final paragraphs in 20th century fiction. The district commissioner, standing over Okonkwo's body, thinks about the book he is going to write. A book about his years pacifying the primitive tribes of the lower Niger. He thinks Okonkwo's story might be worth a paragraph. Perhaps a whole chapter. Certainly not more. Achebe has just spent 200 pages giving us Okonkwo's inner life, his family, his village, his rituals, his oral history, his poetry, his wars, his weaknesses. And in the final sentence, the whole of it is compressed into a colonial officer's mental sketch of a paragraph he will never bother to write. That is the answer to Conrad. That is what Achebe was doing all along. He was showing us, for 200 pages, the interior a European writer would compress into a paragraph and dismiss. The book is not primarily an argument about colonialism. It is an argument about who is granted an interior. Who is allowed to be a person on the page. Who is allowed to be tragic in a way that matters. Okonkwo is a violent, controlling, ultimately broken man. Achebe does not spare him. Achebe does not make him lovable. Achebe makes him a person, because a person is exactly what Heart of Darkness refused to make him. If this changed how you think about Things Fall Apart, subscribe. We break down the most important books ever written, one argument at a time. New video every week. And if this was worth 10 minutes of your life, hit like. It helps the channel more than you think.